This video is going to show you solo Grandmaster Nightfall getting platinum rank on the Lightblade, which a build that I would refer to as a GIGA barrier break build. Because the idea of this setup didn't dawn on me until today, because I realised when we're in Song of Flame, which I already know this, but when we're in Song of Flame, the solar Warlock super, you get Radiant the entire super. But what about we just don't use the super and take advantage of the Radiant buff with a heavy? Because I felt this week that I didn't really need to use an exotic of any kind, whether it be primary or energy. The Scout was good enough. My Kinetic Tremor Scout was good enough. My Velocity Baton was good enough. So I was playing around with ideas on what good exotic heavies there is. I know there's Anarchy. We know there's Anarchy. And the same idea, what I've got here, would work with Anarchy. Right? But Microcosm is something I have not seen a solo GM. I haven't seen anyone do a solo GM with it. And I wanted to do a solo GM with it. Because it does massive damage to shields and it does kinetic damage. It's a really interesting weapon. So we'll go into the in-depth details about this gun. Bear in mind, I've only had this trace rifle 2 days. I only actually just got it this week. I didn't get it at Found Shape because shortly after Found Shape I stopped playing for a little bit and I hated the co-op missions. I thought the co-op missions terrible. I still think they're terrible now. You need to do the core missions, obviously, to do the Microcosm quest. But anyways, going off topic, look at how fast we're melting down shields. It does massive damage to shields. The only problem with the weapon is we don't have Barrier Trace Rifle this season. But we have Radiant via Song of Flame. So I was thinking, how good is this going to be for Lightblade? Because the Lightblade still stands the test of time in terms of difficulty at the boss fight. So I'm trying to look for an easy approach for people to get an easy clear on killing barriers, and I think this is definitely one of them. So this room, we want to first focus on the barrier. The first barrier that's in mid. Try not to enrage the Hive Guardian on right. Like I said in my previous video, I'll be using similar tactics as I did in my previous video. This is just more of an optimized run a little bit. Not that it's more optimized, it's just that I done an exotic emote glitch on a tomb ship which saved me 5-7 minutes. 5-7 minutes or whatever it does. So look at this. Pop super and then just use Microcosm. Look at the damage it's doing. Plus, we still have half a super, so we're going to go and melt the other barrier. Right? So look at how useful it is. Still got super. Barrier shield breaks immediately. And the trace keeps reloading over and over. We mark the targets. We get special ammo on kill. Fantastic. So as a solo playstyle, right, this is fantastic. And I've seen nobody do this this week. Now, whether they done it last season, they might have done. Because you know how out of touch I've been with following people and stuff. But, yeah, I thought this is just a fantastic solo build. So we're taking advantage of Song of Flame, not so much for the ability damage it does, just for the resistance and the Radiant to give us Barrier Trace Rifle. And for critical moments, that's when we need Barrier Trace. We don't need Barrier Trace up all the time. Look at this, what happened. Look at the damage we're doing as well. So, he's fixated the Guardian on my turret. Well, good for me, I can hit him in the back with this damn heavy trace lightsaber thing, whatever it is. When you're going for finish, make sure that you put down some area of effect damage, like with the area denial GL, because if those ads try to melee you while you're finishing the champ, you finishing the Lucent Warrior, then at least they can't kill you because they'll die to the stuff. We'll pop a Transcendence. The other ads have spawned in. We'll just keep spamming our abilities, right? Our nade, our radiant melee, our Velocity Baton. That's it. I keep forgetting its name. This guy just keeps jumping up and down, so we're taking advantage of it. So look at the damage that the Trace Rifle is doing. Pay attention to it. It's quite a lot. Now, there's range drop off. Right now, so for people who are basic on their understanding on Destiny 2, I'm not putting you down. but let me explain to you what I mean when we say the terminology range drop off. When we say range drop off in PvE, precisely in PvE that is, it means that if a weapon is fighting outside of its effective range, whether it be 20 meters, if you start to fight at 21 meters, the weapon will receive, you will do less damage, and then at 22 meters even less, then at 23 meters even less. That's if, say, the maximum effective range of the weapon was 20 meters. Say it was an SMG or whatever it is. Well, anyways, this trace rifle has a harsh penalty to range drop off. So even though it's a huge W in terms of how good this trace rifle is, it has a limitation, and its only weakness, as far as I can see, we're playing with the gun today, which, by the way, is the first time I ever played with it. The only weakness it has in at least endgame content is range drop off. Anything above, I would like to say 20 meters. Because I have inbuilt Darcy tracking in my brain. I put a Darcy chip. Elon Musk put a Darcy chip in my brain. So I'm guessing it's a 20-meter distance. That's when it starts to receive damage drop off. Now, that is a weakness because we can't take champions from a range. And that is a problem at the boss fight. So that's something that we need to think about because, you know, if we're 30 meters, the trace rifle's not going to melt. This is a CQC weapon. For Metal Gear Solid fans, it's a close quarter combat weapon. You need to fight with it like a shotgun, basically. Unless you're not going to do the damage, seriously. We're speeding up the footage here because we're doing the skimmer or the sparrow technique. Look at my tricks, skills pay the bills. And we're using it to put it on the term ship. If you haven't saw my runs, you should have seen my runs in the past. You should know by now this trick. Literally, we're going to pop down our skimmer there. Be careful on checkpoint update. Make sure your checkpoint updates, because if it doesn't, I believe there's still a bug. And if you still have reached the monument and you've skipped a CP, then you won't get loot. I'm pretty sure I saw Vendetta do a clear yesterday and he didn't get loot because he skipped, because he's impatient with checkpoints. But all speedrunners are impatient with checkpoints, aren't they? It's not just him. So just be careful of that. Make sure you've got Ride the Ferry on the left. If you haven't, go back into the hallway, reproc. Obviously, we've got Bleak Watcher turret up still. I actually found this to be better than Getaway Artist. Because here's the thing with Getaway Artist. Its weakness is you cannot place your turret where you want. The turret spawns at your body. That's a problem when you want to get a stun on targets that are in range or that are outside of the turret's range, which again the turret also has range drop off. Same thing that I was on about, the maximum effective range. Well, this ability also has range. By the way, if you run the chest plate, you extend the range of the Bleak Watcher, the new exotic chest plate, which I was playing around with today as well, which is really good. It's actually exceedingly really good. It's amazing how good it is. So yeah, we're not using heavy notice. I'm not using heavy because I don't need to. My kinetic tremors, combination with the debuff from my GL, Velocity Baton, right? Plus having maybe a some sever involved via our melee. We're mountain champs without any heavy. Like I was saying to you before, I didn't really even feel the need to have an exotic in my primary or special. I know there is X-Derus, and I did try it out before, and it is absolutely slapping. And it is something that is absolutely meta for Lightblade, but I'm running out of time with Lightblade, and I want to save myself for GMs for tomorrow at Reset, and I believe the Reset GM will be Proving Grounds. So we've got no checkpoint for Lightblade. There's no Conqueror node yet. It's far too early to give us that. So I'm basically saying this is my last Lightblade video for this week. Basically, I think so at least. Because it's Monday, the algorithms, Destiny 2 algorithm Monday, they don't go together. People take a break on Monday and Sundays generally. Maybe not so much Sunday, but Monday. And then they'll return at Tuesday Reset. So I've got some fresh ideas for GMs, but we're going to save it for next week, which is Proving Grounds. But I figured I would do this as my last Lightblade clear for this, because the Microcosm and the idea of pairing it with Cenotaph the Mask. And you don't have to pair it with the Mask. You would get away with not using the Mask, but I don't see any reason why not to, unless you want to run the OP turret with the chest plate, the brand new one. I don't see a problem with you doing that. Just bear in mind, you need to get that reload because I know it's got 120 in a mag, the heavy trace that is, but you're going to get less ammo as well. But I just figured, it's nice. Let's just pair it with the Trace Exotic Arm. You may as well. And I've never had a reason to use the Cenotaph mask in solo play until now. This is the first time I've ever used it in solo play because there's no real reason to use it in solo play. It's a focused team exotic. Yeah, it's not a solo exotic. But it does generate special ammo for you, so there is something to be said for that. You don't need to run special finisher, in other words. So it's got special finisher built within it. So if you're running some sort of special, if your loadout's heavily based on your special, which this loadout actually quite is, then it's not bad. I was trying to get a turret on that damn bowl, that Savathun World Bowl. But I couldn't, because I know that if I put my turret here, it won't reach. It hasn't got the effective range to freeze Shrieker. So that's what I was trying to do. Oh well, doesn't matter. Anyways, so now to deal with this section here, where we need to skip the Hive Guardians, so we don't need to kill them, of course. So I followed this route, for whatever reason I'm forgetting how to jump. I was following this route on my last video. It's the same path. If you do it like this, you'll be able to sneak past them, like in Metal Gear Solid or Hitman. We'll be able to do a bit of stealth gameplay in D2. Right? Pick up the orb, slide over. But we forgot to do something. Even though it's a basic mistake, it's a mistake nonetheless. We needed to take down these acolytes from range before. We forgot to because we were messing around with the damn Shrieker. So that's alright. I don't want to dunk because a nade will kill you, even though it's just a innocent acolyte. One solar nade, if you stand in it long enough, i.e. 2 seconds, you're dead. Even at this part, even at my level. So just be careful. Don't make the mistake of not killing those 2 acolytes at the dunk points. You need to do it. So there's an exotic emote I'm going to mention, and you need to make sure that you've got it on. It's called Anniversary Pose. I guess that's a new one, right? Is that the one from Damn 10 year or whatever? I don't know. I can't remember when we got it, but that's the emote. Look, that is what you need to do the tomb ship skip. Okay, you need to get that ahead in that construction tomb thing. What what would you even call it? Just make sure your head is in the tomb ship, because I know it sounds like I'm talking stupid, but your hitbox. Okay, so Destiny 2's enemies must be coded in such a way that they are aware of you when they sense your hitbox, which is your head. Now this is like a PvP thing, isn't it? You would think, but I don't mean in the sense that other players are going to sense you that way. What I mean is, why would we ever need to refer our own hitbox in PvE? Well, this is when you do. Because we've emoted our head in a object, right? Literally, the enemies cannot sense us. It's linked to the headbox. I know it particularly that it is, because there's other emotes I've used in the past. The chair emote, the purple one. There's the Vault of Glass emote that also does it as well. Because your head goes into a wall or a object or scenery. This stops enemies from sensing you. Now this emote's better than the chair one because your head's going forward into it. Right, look at that. You will also get jolted halfway through. When that happens, exactly, push forward, emote again. Now look at that. Isn't that interesting? So the new Banes that got created recently, they can sense us, but the other enemies can't. So that's it. I found that I thought it was going to die there because of the guy with the track and meteor things, but we didn't. Skimmers on tomb ships. We're going to jump over, and now we'll speed up the footage a little bit. So now you can just do what you want, clear these for all. I'm going to use the area denial GL to quickly take them, because on my last video I was worried about that I would destroy the skimmer, but I've purposely put my skimmer at the back of the tomb ship so that I can quickly kill the thrall like that. Get on, get your ammo. Make sure you're full on heavy, definite. Especially if you're using this strat. See, there's two weaknesses. Two weaknesses with this trace. One, range drop off. Over 20 meters, it suffers. And ammo. That might be because it's a famine GM, but I wasn't getting much heavy. At the boss fight, I wasn't getting much heavy, and I did get the heavy that was required for the run, but I barely used the trace rifle, which tells me the ammo economy of the weapon's kind of funky, because it's a kinetic weapon, right? So it's a kinetic, it's a weapon that does kinetic damage, has no element affinity, and sits in the heavy slot. I was actually even confused what would work for the scavengers. Kinetic scavenger works for it, of course. Because what else would work if that didn't? Because it's not solar, it's not void, it's not arc, it's not stasis, so on and so forth. So yeah, if you want scavenger for this, or if you want holster mods for it, not that you would need it with Cenotaph, but if you do, then it's kinetic holster. Treat it as a kinetic weapon. The only thing is, I'm now confused whether it gets the overcharge buff. Does anyone know if it gets the overcharge buff? Because if that's the case, I could be doing more damage with this trace than now, because I have not met the requirements for the overcharge buff, because you need to match the surge, which is stasis and void surge. I am technically on a solar super, so I have not met the conditions. So if that's the case, because it's a kinetic weapon, it is a heavy weapon, but it's a kinetic weapon. But doesn't it complicate it a little bit that there's the overcharged weapons? It says specifically kinetic weapons get an increased to damage when a surge is matched via your super. So I don't know if that is a thing. So let someone answer the question. Somebody tell me for once, because I'm sick of telling people everything. You go and tell me. Someone find it and tell me. I'll be a Datto where he just gets all the information off everyone else. Go and find out the information, come back at once and tell me by first class mail. Does trace rifle get overcharge buff once you match surge? I'm asking you the question now. You've got to go and figure it out, because I'm too tired to figure it. So these spawn enemies, we're trying to get the initial ones that spawn. Let's look for ammo. Before we go up there, I always have a look for ammo, because it gives me a license to use more ammo if there's plenty of bricks. And there's no heavy, so I've got no license to use the heavy. But it doesn't matter, because the heavy plays no role at this bit, because it's all long range stuff. And I would only be wasting heavy if I started using it on the top of that cliff. So it's fine. As long as I've got some special, right? Because the goal is to use enough special to debuff the targets that we need with the IFAC mod, especially champs and the ogres. And leave with max ammo to the boss fight. That is the goal. Which I pretty much think that does happen. Because remember, famine is on. So you've got to be concerned about ammo more than what you usually would be in a GM. However, because I've got Cenotaph on, it's really good at the boss fight, because I keep generating special ammo. So that is good. So what I find funny about this cliff section is every time I run it, it's different. Sometimes the Scorn unstops an absolute beast and he gets all the way to Alak Hul. He gets all the way up top, jumps up top, and then starts opening the Shriekers and all that stuff. And then sometimes he gets owned. He gets owned, and then you've got to do more work. So the funny thing about it is, depending on how good his creeps, sometimes they do that. Depending on how good that Scorn champ is, depends on how quickly you can do this section. If you get good RNG, right, we've actually got a second one spawn on right. We actually got a second one spawn. There's another Scorn champ spawned on right hand side, I believe. I believe so, at least. There's some, yeah, there is. So we've got an extra, and I think the conditions for this to get the second Scorn champ is to kill the first one quickly. Because I've found if the first one's alive for quite a time, you don't get a second one. But getting a second unstop's in your favour, right? Because obviously the ogres and the hive unstop's going to be all focused on that one unstoppable champ. So it gives us license to take some of the streakers, at least the left one, because the streakers can get annoying once you deal with them last. So dealing with them on top of the cliff, especially the left one, because you can't one cycle them with the scout, especially mine. Well, mine's really good, but with a legendary scout, you can't one cycle them. You need to close them up and then take them again, maybe 2-3 times at least, because you'll die. On a one-on battle against a streaker, you will die. Unless it's, special weapon ammo that you're using, or heavy, or whatever it is. So we'll keep getting our turrets in mid as well. This will help us to stun the champ. On the previous run, we artist, this was a problem. We couldn't stun champs because we can't aim where we put the turret. So that's a weakness to Getaway Artist, as I said, as opposed to just running a general's turret build on Prismatic. There's a benefit to it. In actual fact, I think the chest plate, the new chest plate, is stronger than Getaway Artist, if I'm being honest. I think it's stronger because of how good it is, that it spawns all the ice stuff, and then there's all the stasis artifact mods. I think Gateway Artist might be dethroned by that new chest plate. I was playing with it today, and it's just how strong it is. It's incredible. Which I was going to upload that run, but when I changed my mind, because I do this, I was like, oh, what about Microcosm? I forgot about this gun. I was like, what can we do with Microcosm? And I was like, oh, this is Cenotaph Mask. Oh, but wait, we can give it barrier via Song of Flame, which Song of Flame lasts a long time, at least 15 seconds, maybe longer. That's a lot of time. We can kill. I was wondering what damage it would do, because it does massive extra damage to shields. And when the game is saying shields on anything, it does include barrier. Right? So when you've got mods like, or perks, under over, adaptive munitions, all this sort of stuff, when it says it does extra damage to shields, that includes always barrier shields. Adaptive munitions got a nerf or something. It's not what it was. In Witch Queen it was 3-shot and barriers. Nowadays it doesn't. It's 6-shot. So at some point adaptive munitions got tweaked or bugged, not sure, but it's not as good as what it was. In actual fact, the better barrier option is under over. If you've got a gun with under over, they are very, very, very good. They're very good. So we'll get a turret down, then we'll pop our super. Obviously we've got demo on the baton, so we can keep proccing that whilst we do our super. So we can get quite a lot of damage in as well. We're not using the trace. I know you're going to think, why am I not using the trace? Well, because it's a waste of ammo if we was to. So phase 1 is a waste of ammo if you're using heavy. Depending on what your loadout is. If it's anarchy, if it's stuff like that, then it's in your best interest to probably use it. But with a weapon like this, we've got to play it to its strengths. And I know 400 ammo seems a lot, but it's not that much. You can use quite a lot of ammo fast on this weapon, and famine's on. Like I say, if famine wasn't on, things would be a little bit different. And counterfeit as well. Counterfeit's ruining ammo as well. I mentioned that in my previous video about what I think about that mod. So we're going to pop a Transcendency. It just saves on ammo. We're going to end up doing more damage overall. It'll save on baton ammo. And it'll do damage more quickly. It just speeds up this bit. So when we're doing damage between phases, obviously do the jump mechanic where you jump up and down, up and down. This will stop him firing at you to a degree, but he will still fire at you sometimes. He raises his arm. You should be looking at his arm, not his body. His arm, when he raises it, specifically the AI of it, because he'll sometimes raises it and it starts to light up, but then he jumps. But then sometimes he'll fire at you instead of jumping. And you need to be on the pulse with that. You can't make a misstep with that. At all. The higher your power, though, the more you're going to get away with this. So if you're 2020 and above, I said on my last video, the consistent solo GM basis this season is between 2020 to 2025. That is the sweet spot on you getting nice, easy clears on GMs. Obviously, if you're 2030, then it's even easier then still, right? But if you're below 2020, then you know, other factors start to come into play more. You're more likely to be one shot off an attack and then a cleanup kill off an acolyte. All these other things start to come into play when you're below 2020. See your 2017, 2016, or even 2010. Things, the spectrum starts to tighten up on what you can get away with, and it's less. So, you know, you just need to be aware of that. Now, we need to make sure we've got super. Right, now I discussed the spawns at length in depth on my last run. I'm not going to talk about it too much on the spawns. Just make sure that you're on left hand side. That's left hand side from facing away from the statue, because that is the side or the rotation on where the Hive Guardian spawns. So we'll do a super and then we'll just focus on our trace, right, and just look at the massive amount of damage it does whilst we're radiant. Be careful not to kill both captains or both knights, right? Just kill one of them and leave the other one weak. And then we can then look at getting orbs in mid, because we want a super again. I know we've just used one, but there's orbs on the floor, because that's the Lightblade mechanic. So there's plenty of orbs on the floor. We'll go and grab it, and we're going to do some ammo rotation. So in middle, each phase they'll be cursed. Now you can jump over their heads and make them explode. The bonus to that is that you get rid of them easier. The con is that you will not get ammo if you let them explode without tagging them. If you didn't know, if you don't tag an enemy and an enemy was to die in the game, you won't get ammo. There'll be no ammo for him. So it's actually better to do what I'm doing here. If you're somebody who is worried about ammo later on in the fight, which you should be, because that's when it really ramps up in difficulty anyways, and it allows you the liberties of using more heavy when you shouldn't be using as much heavy, because there might be more heavy in middle. So you're basically farming up ammo for phase 2 and 3 on 1. That should make sense. We're on phase 1 and we're giving the game the best opportunities possible to give me some ammo drops. Yeah, so that's good. So we're done with that. We've got super. We now just need to bait. We're going to bait this Arc Knight all the way around to left-hand side. So this is actually right-hand side. It's not left. I'm considering this as right. All right. So we need to do this because I talked about this at length on the previous video. If you don't do it and you don't have a structure for your barrier champs, you will probably die. If you just like kill the knight in mid randomly and then you're like, oh, it's the next phase. By the time you've said that, you're dead, because barriers will spawn out of position. You won't know where the barrier is. You need to know there and then, not in 5 seconds, not 2 seconds. You need to know instantly where is that barrier, because that's the only way that this strat will work. And I'll show you how good it is. It's a beautiful clip, this. We get a turret down. We're on left-hand side. Melt Knight. Debuff with GL. Radiant Melee, I guess. And then just whip out Trace. Look at the massive amount of damage it's doing. We've got a 3/4 of a super barrier. Beautifully jumps over. We then break his shield instantaneously. We're looking at our super energy. And we get a finisher kill. Because we've got the, by the way, we've got the finisher mod on. If someone can say down below what the name is, I can't remember what it is, but you get resistance when you get a finisher kill. I only realized that mod exists today. Make sure you put it on, because when you crush a ghost or finish a champ, you get resistance, and it seems to be like loads. I don't know what the number on it is. Maybe someone can tell me that as well. That's the next thing. I'm asking you the question. Send me by first class post. What's the resistance of the new mod, and what's the name of it? Send it to me. Postcard me the details, because I can't be bothered testing it. I do enough. I'm doing the commentary for you. You go and find number. I'm not doing the number. So that's it done. Look at that. That's what I'm saying. This is the absolute best strat, in my opinion, on dealing with double barriers at Lightblade. I thought it was better with the machine gun. I mean, the machine gun is fantastic. There's pros to deterministic chaos as well, because it's better at range than what the trace is, but the trace is better at a close quarter range. Like I said, use it as a shotgun, use it within the shotgun / fusion rifle range, and you melt with him, right, against barriers. I can't believe how good it is. The key though is to make sure you don't use your super, because the less super, not use it, but no, don't use the melee and the grenade. If you use the melee and the grenade, you lose super quicker. So the super will last longer if you just don't use anything. So we literally just use it for radiant for the trace and then melt with the trace. That's the whole idea of this run. It was that, and it works beautifully. It's very, very rare I've seen any other super deal with double barriers at Lightblade. There's one or two occasions in the past where I've actually killed double barriers with one super. I believe I've done it with Berserker once, Strand Titan, and I've done it with Arc, Raid and Flux in the past on an Arc Strider. That's way back. That's ages ago when I done that. So I've done it like that. No, that wasn't on a video though. That was off screen. So I've done it twice. So this is the third time I've ever done it where I've killed two barriers. Rotation one. I've set, the set one champs with a super. But I bet you I could replicate that again because it's actually great because the barrier will spawn left like I was, but the one on right jumps over to left as you're killing the one on left, and then he just walks up to you and you can just kill him. So the strat exactly to stand there is the strat. There's no other way better place to stand than that. You can't go wrong with what's just happened there. That is the best case scenario, but don't expect it every time. There's RNG elements to everything in the game, and we don't get it. We don't get it on this time because the rotation of champ is slightly different. But that's just how I do it. I need a super, so we're farming super energy off the boss. We are coasting for time a little bit. We do want a super because the whole strategy will fall down if we don't have the super. But that's fine. We take super when we get hit by the boss, which we don't want to get hit by him too much, but we can control that if we wanted to. But it's a case of we just want to keep hitting him every now and then. I should have made more orbs via my baton attrition orbs gun, but I didn't. So now we're looking to do damage. The barrier champ, the next set spawns on right, the first one at least. So we're going to deal with damage over time to him as he jumps over, and as he jumps, we jump over there, and we pop super. If barrier champ's going to spawn, he isn't. Oh, he does. There we go. It's half HP the trigger, by the way. So we pop super. Okay, we're going to get knocked here. I'm trying to get knocked into that post. I don't think we got a good stun on him. Because we got knocked, I don't think the shield broke immediately, so the barrier regened a little bit. Only a little bit, but it made a difference. Look, we can't get the second stun. So, that's fine, though. But look at the amount of damage we did to the boss as well. So not only did we do massive damage to the champ, we done massive damage to the boss. Now, because we have a rogue, I would call him a rogue barrier, we need to do map rotation. The next goal is to make sure that all acolytes are killed. There are two by the looks. By the way, you can use this trace as ad clear as well. Look at that. It does massive damage to miners. So the range drop off isn't too much of a problem for miners. It's more so major targets. You do in fact lose damage at a range. See that range you just saw me fight against that acolyte? I would not fight against a barrier with this gun from that range. It wouldn't work. It wouldn't work as well. Maybe a little chip damage, sure, some assistive damage, but you wouldn't just like pop a Song of Flame and then try and kill a barrier from 30 meters. It just wouldn't work. So we just need to do a little bit of map rotation. Always pick a side, go clockwise or anti-clockwise. But if you're gonna like bump into the barrier and the boss, cut through the middle. Middle is always an option. If you can't go round, go cut through mid in the air, because you are safest whilst playing in a offensive playstyle, not defensive. You don't want to play defensive at Lightblade, not too much, but you need to know the fine line between defensive and standing your ground. This is a time to stand ground, so we pop Transcendence because boss is messing around. We'll use Trace, massive amount of damage. We have to stop though, so we'll use damage over time, run away, boom, he's dead. See, if we stood our ground too long there, we'd have died. Definite. And I can see that's where people people die because of that, because they stand their ground so much. This is one reason why I know you're not going to like what I'm going to say, and I might sound a bit of a dick. Maybe I am. But this is why new players and casual players like auto rifles so much. Because you can stand your ground with an auto rifle, right? You do that sustained fire. And that's why people like barrier auto rifle. It's one of the most popular champ mods whenever we get it. People love barrier auto rifle. Because for new or casual players, shall we say, it's easier to use an auto rifle than it is a hand cannon or a pulse rifle even, right? But that is the number one reason why casual players die, because they stand for too long hitting a target. Whereas if you realise damage over time is king in the game, not sustained fire. Sustained fire only when you have like a strat like this with the trace. Like this is a sustained fire weapon, so I imagine people will like it because you just hold trigger down and you win. It will work on this, but you need Song of Flame. I think without Song of Flame, for Lightblade, I'm particularly talking about Lightblade now. Say you're doing like a Titan Prismatic run. Microcosm wouldn't work so well with a Prismatic Titan because there's not much point to run it. Because you won't have barrier trace. Now, if we ever get anti-barrier trace as a champ mod, right? I think we've had Overload trace rifle. Yes, correct. I know there's Divinity and stuff, but I'm sure we've had Overload trace rifle. I'm sure we have. If we ever get that, then pay attention to Microcosm because it'll have intrinsic barrier, making it the best barrier weapon in the game. End of discussion. Arbalest, get out of here. Wishender, get out of here. Anything you can think of, Microcosm will be better because it does the most damage more than any other weapon in the game to shields. Again, I don't know the number on it. You need to find the number. I'm doing commentary. You want everything for me. You do the numbers. I'll tell you the common sense stuff. See, I know I'm just talking shit with you, but what you need to realize is when people talk about Destiny and they talk about DPS numbers and stuff, and they like to sound smart, some of those players aren't even good at the game. It's kind of funny. It's kind of funny to me because some players, like especially on Reddit, they try to bedazzle you with their knowledge. But when you start to drill down with said person, they've actually done no achievements in the game because they get that clever with the game that they lose common sense in the process, where they want to look at Excel spreadsheet all day long, right? Even when it's sunny outside, they'll look at Excel. They'll look more at a spreadsheet than play the game. I'm all about visual learning, visual damage. I learn from visual damage. Now, it's not that I've never looked at a spreadsheet, because I certainly have, and sometimes I have to for some things that I do. So don't take it out of context that I never look at a spreadsheet. But I'm just saying, especially with solo play, sometimes you need to look and just think. An example of this was Vesper's Host. So when people establish, we can't do damage with any weapons, there's no way to do any damage, we need total damage, the DPS phase is so long. If you had told me that without me even seeing what Vespers of Host looked like, roll the clock back 3-4 weeks, I would have said to you, use Grand Overture, because its total damage, right, is really high. Because you can shoot 20 bullets, well, you can proc 20 missiles, shoot 20 bullets, proc 20 missiles, and back and forth and back and forth. There's no other weapon that can do that. Anarchy can simulate it a little bit because you could do 2 Anarchy and then pair that with a special. But that means most of your damage is coming from a special. So that's why, look at things common sense. If you know overall the sandbox, You don't need to look at Excel spreadsheets for the amount of time that other people are doing it. I know they are. They're looking at Destiny 2 Compendium or whatever it's called. They're looking at that all the time, and it's just overkill. I just find it really ironic. All these people say, "Oh, do this, do that, do that," but when you look at them or you try and find out any information on them, they don't have any runs up. They've never accomplished anything in the game. They've never done anything, but for the pursuit of information, they'll do anything. But for the pursuit of doing something to achieve something, so they're more like just like trying to be like a Destiny 2 scientist, where they're all talk, no action. They're all about the science. They're on Discovery Plus at 9 p.m. weekdays, right? But they won't do any challenges, even though that they know more information than others. So some of the best players I'm saying that I've met, most of them don't look at numbers. Because the real skill is learned by just playing and evaluating your play. And you go on like that for years upon years upon years upon years upon years until the point where you start evaluating things and not thinking that you have. Like, it comes second nature. So that's the little spiel about the whole Excel. So one thing that you need to do less, top tip from me, stop going on your PC to look at numbers and start practicing more. You're not practicing enough. You're looking at numbers too much. The more you look at numbers, the less practice you get in. Do you understand it? So you need to look at practicing more. I'm more of a practicer. I'll practice. I'll look at numbers sometimes, but I'll practice more. So, final set of barriers. So the same thing they spawn on right hand side. On the final phase at least. We'll do the same thing. Pop, super. We're going to finish as the boss. Stormsmith. That was timed. That was time for that. We don't have the super energy for barrier 2, but we were close. But that's fine. That's perfect, because it's the final barrier 2 kill. All the odds are down. We're good. We have a transcendence to pop out of emergency. So if we do get into problems, look, we can use it for ad clear as well. So it's a pseudo heavy. It's doing two things for us. Again, I would love to run this trace rifle on a non-famine GM week. We'll see what the weekly modifiers are next week, because GMs are different now. They're not like what they used to be. You've now got master modifiers, which means I think there might be togetherness. Looking forward to a togetherness GM. That's going to go down well with me. I can't wait for the togetherness GM. I'm going to get a poster up on my wall. Can't wait for togetherness GM. I can't wait for it. 20th of November at a cinema coming near you. Togetherness GM. I can't believe we're getting it. I've been looking forward to it all summer. All summer I've been looking forward to that. Final barrier is in mid. So we've got a turret dam in mid. That's actually good. It's better than Getaway Artist. That's one reason why not running Getaway Artist is actually kind of good, because you can place your turret where the barrier is. On Getaway Artist you can't. You can't do that, because you need to be standing right next to the barrier to get the turret next to him, because turret spawns at body. So look how easy it is. This is so easy. It's so easy to get that rogue barrier. By the way, the rogue barrier, the one after the first one, is always a nuisance to kill. Not that time though. If he goes mid, if the barrier behaves himself, the rogue one that is, and he goes mid, that's perfect, because you can get a turret in mid. You can even pop a transcendence. And remember, top tip, don't stand your ground too long. You need to be a master of damage in and out, burst damage, a little bit of damage. Like if you're scouting an ad, even if you're scouting an acolyte, you're only allowed half a mag and you run. Now, kinetic tremors will proc in half a mag. It'll be less. I think it's 6 bullets, isn't it? 5 or 6 bullets will kinetic tremors proc. So say, for example, you're trying to focus down an acolyte, a rogue one. You've got license to focus him down for half a mag and you run. That is the golden tip. If you're forever running, damage, run, damage, run, damage, run, you actually won't die. The chances of death aren't too bad. And if he does blast you, like he just did there, the boss, jump up. The safest thing is to jump in the air. Don't jump in a straight line though, like right up and down like Mario. You know, do a little strafe, left and right. Really, really simple, straightforward. We're going to finish the boss off with Microcosm because we can and we have super, so we may as well. Look, I mean, I didn't spam the heavy trace, and I still didn't get. I only had 60 ammo left, so it wasn't that good for ammo, but fantastic for the double barrier strap. Hope you enjoy. Thank you.